Okay, so I think we are live. Hi, everybody. This is Kalyn McDonald again here with our Cosmic Secret Facebook Live series. Just for anybody that doesn't know who I am yet, I am the social media manager for Sphere Being Alliance, as well as a co-host of the new Sphere Being Alliance YouTube show, Cosmic Table Talk. I am here today with Peter Maxwell Slattery, and I am so excited for this interview today. Hi, Peter. How are you?
Good, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We are very excited to introduce you to the Sphere Being Alliance family audience. You were in the Cosmic Secret, obviously, and so I just want to let you introduce yourself to everybody that's watching today. So I'm going to let you take it away and just kind of give an introduction of your work, of your experience, and then how you became connected with the Cosmic Secret project.
Right, so I'm known as an experiencer, probably with one of the most documented cases in history that it's ongoing. So there's a lot of photographic, video evidence, physical evidence, lots of witnesses, but I'm also an author of the Shiji material, which is channeled material from one of the contacts that I'm interacting with as well. The experiences started at a very early age through telepathy. I wasn't quite aware what was going on then. And then it led to physical interactions between the ages of 8 and 12 to when I saw my first UFO at the age of 12. And so these days I'm basically doing this full time, and I'm doing readings and assisting people with self-mastery practices would be the best way to do it, because that's where I think a lot of things lies, people being their own orchestrator of their reality and what's going on, and giving them tips and tools and methods to go through that as well. So I'm actually working on a series at the moment for Edge of Wonder TV called Ascension Teachings, and I've actually just started recording episodes for that as well. So I've got a lot of different projects going on, and coming up as well, we've got Disclosure Down Under, which actually all the speakers are actually part of the Cosmic Secret. So we've got Jordan Sather, the Edge of Wonder Boys, James Gilliland, Barry Littleton, and John Vivanco. So that's just sort of a quick snapshot of what's going on and who I am, because we could literally talk for days about the material and information, but that's just a quick thumbnail sketch of it.
That is fantastic, Peter. Thank you so much. So for the Cosmic Secret, what was your angle, and what was really your goal as far as collaborating with the Cosmic Secret and getting your information out there?
Well, it was really quite unexpected. I was at the East City Ranch for a few months, as I am each year, working with James Gilliland, doing a lot of different practices and conferences and workshops at the ranch. And Jordan Sather, who I'm friends with, it was the second or third time we caught up. He said, I want you in the Cosmic Secret. And I was like, well, what's that? And what's going on? He told me about it. And I was like, well, thank you for the opportunity. And around that time, I believe Corey Good was coming to the ranch as well. And Corey and I got 5 days together to hang out and share a lot of information and talk about things as well. And so when we got to Roger with the filming, it was basically, who am I, what's some of the experiences I've had, and the profound, I guess, nature and ramifications of those experiences, because a lot of what I'm interacting with are very highly evolved light beings or forms of consciousness that surpass physicality. And there are physical beings that I interact with, but I've been shown a lot of information where we're going if we pull ourselves together individually and as a collective. And so that was sort of the main focus on my part in the Cosmic Secret. And they showed some of just a quick snapshot of some of the evidence that I've been able to obtain over nearly a 10-year period of being able to document what's happening to me.
And so you said that you had that you're in contact. Did you say 10 different beings?
No, there's a lot of different beings, but predominantly it's mainly light type beings, or beings that they appear in conscious form, like from their consciousness, whatever way they can, usually like apparitions or ghosts, but that's them trying to break through in whatever form they can to third density reality, because it's very hard when you're going up 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and beyond densities, and even what I call the geometric light realms, which is where we could say angelic light being types beings reside, they've got to work the best way that they can to interact with you as well.
And how do you prepare for these contacts? Do you have to be in a certain state? Do you have to be resonating at a certain frequency, or do they just find their way to you?
It's a bit of both, because, for example, if people go to my website, they can see that I've had hundreds of people in a park in the middle of a city or out in the country, and we initiate contact. And that's through meditation and really intention experiments and exercises. And it's not summoning. People will call me a summoner. I'm not a summoner. It's more like ringing up a friend if they're available for a coffee. Either they're available or they're not.
Right.
Other times, a majority of it seems to happen when whenever. Sometimes there'll be people around. That's the thing with my stories, that there are over 300 witnesses alone just to events at my home or certain places that I reside, or there's now thousands of people around the world that have been to my Skywatch events and have experienced the phenomena themselves. So it's sort of twofold. It will happen when it's got to happen, but I believe that there's an energetic component. You've got to be in a right state of consciousness and mind. And it does happen a lot during meditations, or I'll actually pop out of my crown and actually go into different realms or onboard crafts. Sometimes they'll land the craft on me in apparition form and vibrate my consciousness from the body computer out, because that's the only way I could experience that craft. So there's many different modalities and ways that these experiences do happen.
And you said, so you were a child when this first started happening to you, when these abilities first started happening. Can you tell a little bit about what it was like in those earlier years when you were making contact with these beings?
Yeah, so originally around the age of 7, and I didn't connect the dots till later years, but what was happening was I had this female voice speaking to me in my consciousness, pardon me, and it wasn't through a thought. It was actually verbal. And the only way I can equate it is if you ever get your chin and put it on an acoustic guitar and play it, that vibration that comes through, it was actually audible. It was neutral. It was in English, but it had a female tone and it didn't have an accent at all. Now, that continued throughout my life. And I'd get predictions and prophecies and certain information on what people were going to do, almost like I was 10 steps ahead of people. Mm. And after that continued, then started experiences between the ages of 8 and 12, which this is going to sound bizarre, but originally what I would see is Kurt Cobain come into my room in the morning. I don't know when it was. It would be when I went to bed, and there would be a bright light coming in around the peripheral of the curtains. We had these big blackout curtains, but there was light shining through. Now, after a certain amount of experiences, what I would see is this Kurt Cobain vibrate between that and a grey, but it was actually a white grey, which is actually depicted in the movie The Cosmic Secret.
Right.
And it wasn't negative, but I found out later it was weaning me into contact. And eventually I started to see this being for exactly what it was. And I found out later these beings are the guardians. And they work at portals and they work with specific beings. And they are the same race that work for what I call the Council of the Whole, which are basically monitoring, regulating, and are a collection of different civilizations connected in with them on monitoring what's going on throughout all planes and dimensions throughout the cosmos. And so those experiences continued for about a 4-year period, because I was in a certain home that we moved into, which is when that sort of started. And at the age of 12, I had my first UFO sighting of a massive disc-shaped object that was about 3 times the size of a football field in summer, when I went down to a shop to go and get a Slurpee. And it was I can remember it clear as day. I was going down to fill up this bottle container that it changed color when you poured the Slurpee into it.
Right, I remember those.
Blue. And so it was just the middle of summer. I was walking down this road called Dick Road to the Hume Highway, which is the main highway or freeway between Melbourne and Sydney. I was sort of situated between those two cities in the country. And yeah, this object I don't know where it came from, but I just looked up and it was cutting in front of Red Light Hill, in front of it, and until it went out of view. And to this day, I still wonder who saw it, because there's no way people could have not seen that. It was broad daylight. It was an amazing experience. And basically from then on, I started to experience, and I didn't know what it was at the time. And again, I didn't know if these beings were angels, demons, or angelic, or aliens. I had no idea to what I could put this reference into. And so high strangeness, it was basically like, and even now it's basically like any type of paranormal activity that can happen does happen if it's going to, you know, whatever's going to occur. So I would see things like shoes being flown across the house or curtains being picked up, and I'll check the window, the windows shut, unexplainable phenomena. And then it's hard to give a time frame. I think it was around 2004. I had a sighting, a broad daylight sighting with a friend that experienced the whole thing, and he just couldn't believe what he experienced was this orb, which was this orb, and it was flying erratically over the suburb of Glenroy in Albury, or near Lavington. It's a suburb in Albury, and it was just doing a crazy, amazing maneuvers, and actually other cars pulled up and witnessed this as well. And I wasn't able to film it. I wasn't carrying a camera back then. Now I've got a camera on me pretty much at all times. And I was a rap artist for a while, and I was top 10 of the charts for about 4 years doing that music. I actually produced and recorded everything myself and worked with some big producers. And I was mainly top 10 on the MP3 charts for a long time. And even last year, I was number 2 for a short time on a radio station here in Australia with something that I and a friend did, who was actually a #1 artist from years ago, which is about consciousness and things like that. And I never thought I'd be doing that again. But when I pursued that career, at one time I had a penthouse in the Gold Coast in Australia, which is sort of Hollywood on the Gold Coast, we call it. Yeah. And I just wasn't happy. And I came back to my hometown, and I started to have sightings and experiences. I actually had 6 sightings or 5 sightings. My friend actually had one, which makes it 6, in a period of 2 weeks, which he was there for most of them, and they were recorded. I contact the Australian Air Services to go, what the hell is going on in our airspace? Because I've got this on camera and it's not a plane or a helicopter. And they actually responded with, there's nothing in your airspace at the time of those sightings. So that blew me out. And eventually that led to going on the news and things like that, which I didn't orchestrate. They came to me, and I was just wanting to know what the hell is going on, because it seemed to start to pick up to be a monthly and then weekly thing. And now it's almost a daily thing, mainly through telepathy. And so eventually I started to experience blue lightning in my home and blue orbs. And over a certain amount of experiences, these orbs, mainly about the size of a baseball, and they look like they're liquid blue, light blue color, almost like hair gel when you see it in a hair gel container. And it's sort of between gel and liquid light is the only way I can describe it. And so after a few experiences, I would actually see like a white light appear, just flash like this, and it all come out, and it would go around the circumference of my home, come back through. There's a photo of that I've taken. There's another photo that you can actually see the face of one of these beings in the orb, which I'm very skeptical about a lot of orbs, because it could be dust particles, pollen, whatever. Right. But I saw this and I got it on camera. And eventually what happened was these blue orbs, I found out, manifest into these 7-foot tall liquid blue light beings. They do look predominantly masculine, but they seem to have a balance of masculine and feminine energies, and no private parts or anything, but they're humanoid when they manifest from that orb. And later I found out that they're the Elohim, which through more experiences, I found out that that is our highest aspect, our highest self. The gods in the Bible are actually our God self, that are a cell of the overall collective. And the best way I can explain this is, imagine my body as God, and each microscopic cell would be the Elohim, and we divide off like that and go through what I call the geometric light realms in the peripheral of the blueprint of source, and we come down the planes and dimensions and experience what we've got to experience for the overall collective. And so later after that, I was introduced to a being called Shiji, who is a being from the star Merope in the Pleiades, and there's different densities of her as well. And I don't go on about that much unless people are reading the material, because it's just too far out there for a lot of people. But I've been able to write these channeled books that are international bestsellers, 3 of them pertaining to a lot of information and the contacts continue today, sometimes in physical form. At that time, they went for a 6-month period of physical contacts and then died down, mainly went through telepathy, and other beings have popped in and out of the woodworks that I interact with now as well.
That is fascinating. I mean,
that's trying to condense it, but I hope it's understandable, especially in my accent for those that have got trouble understanding it.
Well, one thing you can rest assured of here in Sphere Being Alliance land is that we talk about 8-foot tall bluebirds quite often. So there's not too much that's too out there for a lot of our audience. And your accent's coming across perfectly. So it was great. Oh my gosh, there's like 10 questions I could ask just from that story. One thing I would like to ask for the audience. So we have a lot of people in our audience often comment on our posts or write in messages or send us emails about their own contact experiences. And I really truly believe that it is more common and more widespread than even those of us that are awake and know, because there's still, I would venture to guess, the majority of the population still keeps their contact story to themselves. They feel like they'll be ostracized, or no one's going to believe them, or theirs isn't as important as somebody else's. You know what I mean? I think there's just like this whole mixture of emotions when it comes to that. So could you explain maybe some of the challenges that you've had as being a contactee, as well as even, was there a time that you rebuked it? You know what I mean? That you just, you didn't want to be that person. You didn't want to have these abilities, just kind of share like the human side of this extra fascinating information.
Well, my whole life unfolded to basically I was destroyed for a while there from this. And then what was being said to me was I lost friends. My family thought I was nuts. I actually lost jobs because of this, because I was plastered all over the television. I just wanted to know what was going on. And it's almost like going to the military. Here in Australia, you usually get 30 days of military training in the army, and they break you down and rebuild you up. That's basically what happened. Was everything was shattered. Everything that I thought I knew, I had to realize that I knew jack, and I had to go back and either investigate, even from the information, any channeled information, including mine. Don't believe it 100%, because the information is only as clear as the channeler bringing it through. So what I'm saying is I had to go back and reinvestigate history, what I think I knew, because once this happens, you start to realize that we are living predominantly in a lie of a manipulated reality from the lower light, which are archons and reptilian-based entities, and it's even further than that, to where there is a veil upon us right now through fear and negative acts that feed this artificial intelligence that keeps these beings in place. And so once I started to realize that life and our experience isn't what it seems, everything comes crumbling down. It's very hard for a lot of experiences. I've been shot at, I've been ridiculed, you name it. It's happened to me. The type of surveillance in government, or what I call the government behind the government surveillance, has been very much present. And they're challenging times. There was, I'll admit it, there's been, suicidal tendencies years ago with this going. Am I literally nuts? I went and got brain scans because I thought that I was losing my mind. And then people were saying, Pete, we're there with you when these things happen. The camera's getting it. You're not nuts. People just aren't going to believe this because they've got no frame of reference.
Right.
And they're exactly right. They've got no frame of reference. And so a big dark cloud of depression came upon me for a very long time, which led me to going to do the inner work, which what this eventually leads to is the conscious aspect, because I was having very physical experiences, and it was like I needed to get my butt kicked to go, Pete, you need to wake up. You don't know who you are. And that's what Shiji was saying to me. She goes, you don't know who you are. You don't know what you're here for. Now, with that said, I'm not special. I believe every single person on the planet is an experiencer. And mainly that operates through consciousness, through thought. So when we feel beings, you don't feel like you're alone, or you get goosebumps or the hair stands up. What's happening is there's an energy inside your auric field overlapping, and that's the physical byproduct, just like the communication. It's projected through thought, and it comes down through the crown chakra while in the body computer. It's different when you're in your light body. And it goes from the right side of the brain to the left, and it decodes into words, concepts, ideas, paragraphs. And there's actually books of information that can come through with that and visions. And so doing the inner work, I was able to understand and master a lot of this because I did 3.5 years daily, 8 to 12 hours a day meditations and remote viewing, which actually enhanced my abilities to meet these beings halfway. And so what I'm saying is that everyone who has thoughts out of the blue, that have epiphanies and ideas come through, not to say you don't have your own thoughts, but that can be communication from another aspect that coexists at the same time. It could be your higher self. It could be spirit guides or angelics or even extraterrestrials coming through. And in a way that I use as an analogy for this was when this started to get very intense about 9 years ago, I would walk outside, and every time I walked outside, I knew there would be a craft there. And the thing is, a lot of my stuff happens in broad daylight, as people can see. So what I started to notice, and the physical contacts hadn't started properly at that time. So I would walk outside, there'd be a craft there. Now, this happened like so many times, it was beyond a coincidence that I'd just walk out and I knew that there was a ET vehicle there or whatever it could be. And through the contacts with Shiji, she was saying that we project that thought to you and you decode it as your own thought, but it's us communicating with you. And that's how most of the population is being communicated with, is through thoughts. It's almost like you're driving in a car and having a conversation with yourself. Mm-hmm. And so everyone's having these things happen. Some have to do more than others in terms of part of their mission here, whether it's interviews or books or experiencing this in such a way that it's very full on and showing the public. Or some people are here along with the whole collective, I believe, to hold a frequency here that's helping to up the level of consciousness going on. And so that's basically, in short, the journey from depression and going at it hard to realizing, you know, all right, I've got to step this up. I'm not going to be a victim. And what did come with that was off-world attacks. And what I mean by off-world attacks is that I get a lot of crap from the UFO community. I don't care about it so much. I don't really care about any community except those that are wanting to look into consciousness, because even experiences now that seem to be new experiences, I guarantee 5, 10, 15 years time, it's all, every experience that it leads to the conscious aspect of this reality. And there is a time that you do think, wow, is this demonic? Is this, you know, all negative? Because your whole world's coming undone. And it's a bit of both. There are negative influences, and then there are those that are there to assist with the awakening and healing process of humanity and that are in service to others, which is what we have got to come to as well, individually and as a collective. Mm-hmm. And so predominantly the off-world attacks have been very heavy. They've mainly been in form of reptilian greys. And I've seen the Draco reptilians, different types of them. But these guys are only about 3.5 foot, and they have the most dreadful energy in existence. But I know that love and compassion for them has turned these beings into mist to dissolve and go back to where they go to. And that's one thing that I know, that when you're interacting with some of these negative influences, love and compassion and acceptance of what they are sort of pees them off to the point where it blocks them off for a bit, but that stuff still does happen. Yeah. And it would be an injustice for me not to mention these things, because I know that if experiences aren't experiencing this yet, eventually they will, because it's two-sided, this war, this Operation Starseed, I call it, that's going on.
So are there any type of daily tools that you use to keep yourself in that that love and compassion frequency to help kind of counteract those negative encounters?
Yeah, I mix it up. Now, every day I'm doing some type of practice, but for example, and this is sort of something that I'm glad you mentioned this, because something that comes down to the self-mastery aspect, besides service to others and love and compassion, is spiritual discipline. And I'm not saying that you've got to go and sit on top of a mountain like Gandhi for 4 hours straight and you're going to ascend, and this ascension process is a lot different, but you've got to do what works for you. So for example, for myself, usually 5 days a week at the least, I wake up, I put affirmations on YouTube. I don't even listen to it. I'm subliminally decoding and reprogramming my consciousness in terms of self-belief and things that we're told through society that we can't do. So self-love, self-worth, things like that. While I'm doing that, I'm doing Qigong, which is actually what Qigong and Tai Chi come from, which is an ancient energy practice, working with the 4 elements. Then I go into Qigong. I do yoga. I do weights, sit-ups, push-ups. I also do karate because I was taught Okinawan style Goju-Ryu many years ago, since I was actually a kid, and at times would fight blindfolded through our exercises. And so through that, also with meditations, usually 3 meditations a day, and a healthy diet. I've been vegan, not saying go vegan, but I've been vegan for 5 years, and I find that just a good healthy diet in general and exercise along with certain practices can really keep you at a spiritual level where it's like going to the gym. You work out a certain amount, you're going to keep your fitness at a certain peak level, and when you drop it, so does the body and the mind and the spirit. So I find that doing what I do as practices, it keeps me at a certain level to where I keep on top of my game. And then when negative influences come through, I do a certain type of clearing that's on that 11:11 meditation we spoke about before we started. That's actually on the website as well. And I also work with James Gilliland doing some of these practices that people can go both to eseti.org or petermaxwellslattery.com or esetiaustralia.org to where some of these practices are posted that people can exercise themselves if they wish to do so.
That's fantastic. And just so everybody knows, we will have all of those websites and links in the description as soon as the interview is over. So you'll definitely be able to find those practices and all of Peter's information through those links. So, okay, no, that's great. It's literally spiritual fitness, you know, and when people start to, and by people, I mean myself, we, all of us, the collective, when we start to understand that spiritual fitness means all of our spiritual bodies, and our physical body is a spiritual body, you know, it's one of our spiritual bodies, because spirituality and science is one and the same, you know, and it has been the divide between the two has been brilliantly engineered to keep us oppressed and to keep us in the dark, and so that we don't understand that, you know, they're one and the same. You know, so I love that you made the analogy of like going to the gym, like you know, it really is, because for us to stay spiritually fit, that's mind, body, spirit, you know, the whole package. That's great.
People have got to do the inner work. That's the thing, is that some people think that it's external, and it's not external. Excuse me, I just bought this new computer, and when
No worries.
rings, my computer now rings and I can't stop it. Frustrating. But anyway, yeah, but that's the thing, is that people need to do that inner work, and they externalize it, and everything, even though there are crafts and these other realms, the biggest portal is within, and it's our consciousness. And from there, we can experience anything and go through the self-mastery experience. We can end up bilocating or projecting somewhere else and having these experiences while here at the same time. But an important thing with that said is to do grounding as well. And that's what I try to do as often as I can, because a lot of people like us, if they're not doing enough of that, they're not here. And they've got to remember, people go, I want to go to 5D and I want to do this and do that. It doesn't matter. It does not matter at the moment. What's important is anchoring these energies through, grounding, and that is going to help here, along with following what you're passionate about. That's you doing your part, doing what you're passionate about, along with bringing the energy through here. And enough of us doing that, that will affect this reality. It's all a projection from within. So you change within, and that will project outside of yourself and change that reality outside of ourselves. And this is where it really does come down to that self-mastery and inner work. But it is a process. People think they're not getting anywhere. I know a lot of the time what's said to me is, Pete, I can't clear my mind when I try to meditate, so they stop meditating. In my opinion, if you've done a clearing before you meditate, that is guides or ETs or even your other aspects coming through to communicate through thought, decoding into your native language, trying to communicate with you. And a lot of the ancient meditation practices, all the scriptures and things like that, not all of it, but a majority of it has been manipulated for us to do things a certain way from some certain guru or prophet. And the truth is that we all have these abilities, and we've got to work out what works for us individually. So people that get that mind chatter, take notice of what it is, but always do a clearing first, because there could be some deep, profound information and concepts and ideas coming through that could really help you at this time with the journey that you're on. But it's just just going on that journey and taking that chance and knowing that, you know, not everyone knows it all, but when you start to follow this path, everything unfolds and is provided for you. And it's scary because I think the big thing is fear of the unknown, fear of security, fear of what if, and I call it what if mentality. But when you take that leap and go stuff it and you step into the heart, things just come that you can't even imagine in your wildest imagination.
I really love that you bring that up, because I think that it really comes down to, you know, that empowerment that we have been robbed of, you know, because if obviously, how can you oppress unempowered people? If we understand how powerful we are, you know, then we can't be controlled. So I love that you bring up you know, I think that a lot of people, they take a certain belief system, or they take a certain practice, or they take something and they want to do it perfect, you know, and they want to do it exactly how they're told, and they don't want to veer, type of a thing. But so kind of just a little shift in perspective as far as taking the pieces of all of these things that work for you and creating your own belief system, creating your own practice as it resonates with you. I think that just really brings that empowerment angle back to our own individual spiritual practices.
100%. And I say to a lot of people, they stick with one modality, like they'll go, I'm a Reiki master, and I'm a Reiki master too. It doesn't mean anything, because what I find is that's a stepping stone for you to incorporate modalities to do whatever it is that you do. Right. So when people ask what I do, I don't even know what I do. I know a lot of different abilities and I've got different modalities, but I do whatever calls for the occasion. Right. And that's what it is. And so I think we need to step out of belief or formats, because what's happening is that we are living in a world right now that's based on blind belief, whether it's people that blindly believe in a religion, and I'm not putting religions down. I think people need to embrace them and accept them, though it's not my thing, but we've got to accept each other's differences. Mm-hmm. Same thing with politicians. We blindly believe politicians. So that's changing. We're seeing by the year, especially the last 10, 15 years. We blindly believe what's on the news without proper investigative journalism, which I don't believe has really been done since the 80s, right. Where you've got a journalist reporting on both sides of an incident, both sides of it, and letting the viewer or listener or the reader come to a logical conclusion based on the evidence. So we've got this blind belief system. And when people realize, all right, it's okay to have beliefs, but knowing and belief are two complete different things. And when you go with knowingness and you go from the heart, you come to truth. And from there, you can make a new reality, a better tomorrow. And that's something that people need to work on themselves, is that it's okay to be up in the air about things. It's okay to do that research and study. But it's just doing what works for you. If people want to stick by the book with whatever they're doing, that's great. It's what works for them. If not, you know, expand and broaden your horizons and see what works for you.
Oh, 1000%. I love it. I love it. So I want to come back to the blue orbs and the blue light beams that you've experienced. So obviously, you know, I'm sure you know Corey's testimony and Corey's story as far as the sphere being alliance and the blue orbs that used to come pick him up, you know, type of a thing. When you were learning Corey's story, maybe for the first time, did any of the way he described the blue orbs or described the sphere being alliance or even the blue avians, did any of that resonate with the type of blue orbs that you saw? Do you think they were the same beings, or do you think that they, you know, different civilizations, or what's your take on it?
Well, these beings don't have a home. They're in source completely. But what happened was I had people reporting to me going, man, you've got to check out this bloke, Corey Good, because it's almost the same material that you're talking about. And I was writing about this in books in 2011, 12, 13. Yeah. And so it spun me out when I saw the material, and I've spoken to Corey again. We hang out for a good amount of time. And I don't think it's exactly the same thing. It could be maybe part of that alliance. But one thing I kept from the public that Corey spoke about was at times these blue orbs that would manifest even bigger, and I would be engulfed in them and appear either in different crafts or different places. And that's something I hadn't released because I thought that's just going to be too out there for the readers. And there's a lot of material I did keep back, but over the years I've let out in certain interviews and things like that. So there is a lot of what Corey says resonates with me. even with the secret space program, even with certain beings. Now, I've got information going back that 20 million years ago plus was when the Lyrians started coming to Earth. And then 500,000 years ago was when they were really putting bases here, which could be the ancient builder race. I don't know. But when I've heard that, almost the timelines sync up with the information in the books of Shiji, going into that the reptilians were here 300 plus thousand years ago. And then I believe after that, the Pleiadians came here to terraform the planet after the reptilian custodianship was cut short, mainly because they introduced the R part of the brain to the Earth human, to where there was a conglomerate of races come here and take it back, which started with the inception of Atlantis and Lemuria. And they created the Australian Aboriginal to incarnate in, which went out over the globe. And there was more genetics engineering done later on with, creating different races and types of beings. And this goes back to the Gosford glyphs that Stephen and Evan Strong have done a lot of work, which is a facility in Gosford, Australia. One wall's Egyptian, one wall's called the Pleiadian glyphs. And the Egyptian story talks about how pharaohs from Egypt came to Australia, and they were basically receiving their mystery school teachings from the Aboriginals here. And what happened was these two pharaohs came here to steal these rocks which act like multidimensional hard drives. And the Australian original people is the best term to use for them. They said that you won't leave with it. We're not going to stop you, but spirit won't let you leave. So one got bitten by a snake and died there. And I've actually been to his tomb and held his kneecap. And the other one got shipwrecked when he tried to leave Australia. The other wall in stone, and I took James Gilliland there, and people can research the Gosford glyphs, and especially Stephen and Evan Strong's work at forgottenorigin.com. It talks about how, and it's even got everything on the wall talking about how the Pleiadians came here, they manipulated the Denisovian that was here and created the Australian Aboriginal to incarnate in. And Shiji was telling me they went from 5th density incarnated into the 3rd density. And that was the start of Atlantis and Lemuria, which eventually led to its own downfall, meaning the war between the two civilizations, which were both Pleiadian colonies. And from there, we come down to modern times, but it gets tricky with some of the information, because what I know from personal experience, and I can't prove it, is that we could say that the Nazis were being influenced by the fallen Atlanteans. They thought they were from Aldebaran, however people want to pronounce it. But I was told that that was a front, and that the fallen Atlanteans, and there's still positive Atlanteans that exist, but the fallen ones that were in Antarctica, they were communicating with the Nazis, and through them started the Fourth Reich, through the NASA program, which was the inception of the modern day secret space program. And so I don't know what of that, if Corey knows any of that, but what I'm saying is when you look at the timeline in his information and mine, which has been out for years, they dovetail. And same with James Gilliland, same with David Wilcock. I don't know Wilcock personally, but when I'm talking to these insiders, or I come across some of these people, we may have different names, but the timelines are syncing up pretty much almost identical, which is what I want people to look at. What's connecting the dots? What's, really connecting here? Because if it's crap, there's going to be nothing backing it up. And sometimes we are not consciously evolved to understand deep concepts and ideas. I know, for example, Shiji's given me material, and 2-3 years later, I've worked out that it's real, but my level of consciousness in the human body wasn't evolved yet enough to understand it. So people need to connect the dots. Again, don't believe it, but put it on board and put it in the grey area, because you just don't know if it could be beneficial for you later on, and if it is true. But from my experience, what I've said is.
I love that you were able to see the similarities between all of these different testimonies, and all of the different informations. And that's one of the things that I'm so grateful for the Cosmic Secret, and even above Majestic. Roger R. Richards, the creator of both films, that was one of his gifts to humanity, is being able to bring in all of these bodies of information and give a little bit of all of them, just enough to see, look, there's a common thread that we're missing. You know what I mean? There are common details coming from either Australia or Colorado, you know what I mean? But they're all saying the same thing. And it's just, there's such beautiful packages to be able to give out to the world to, like you said, here's the start, you go with it. Now you take it to wherever it goes for you. And I think that there's so many rabbit holes. There's enough rabbit holes in humanity for all of humanity. You know what I mean? That everybody can dive down the one that resonates with them, and that will collectively bring up the our collective consciousness.
Definitely. And it is amazing. Like, one more similarity, and again, it's sort of like knowledge from my part in terms of people that knew my information, was when I spoke to Corey, don't quote me, but from what I remember, his experiences started in 2011 with them, and so did mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that there was, now, not saying that, and there's no way are we like, the gurus or anything like that. We're not saying that, but I know that there's even people going further back that are in older generations that have seen the blue orbs.
Yep.
Been on these orb type crafts, like they're just blue, that have seen these blue type projections of beings as well. So it's not just Corey and I, but it's just funny that those experiences for both of us started around the same time. And so that was documented from myself in a photo of one of the blue orbs, and then later other stuff as well. So there's that commonality, but that's the thing, people have got to go with what resonates. And I think we're not seeing a change in the UFO community, and I'm not putting it down. I don't care for any community so much. I want people to care about their own community within and as a collective.
Right.
And with that said, is that we're not seeing any change. We're not seeing any change in the UFO community since Alan Hynek and Jacques Vallée. And Jacques Vallée's been at this for years, and I'm not putting them down, but what I'm saying is the same conclusions and ideas and theories they had back in the 60s, it hasn't changed today. And nobody's listening to the experiences. And if they listen to the experiences, they may be able to start connecting dots. Again, don't believe us. But when you've got enough people around the world from all different social economic backgrounds, cultures, and there's these crossovers of similar things being said, you've got to go, hang on, there's got to be something to this, especially if they haven't communicated, which in my case, I haven't communicated to a lot of these people till I've met them in person. And we've both been known individually, and then we start to go, damn, these things are cross-correlating.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful that that's finally starting to happen now too, because, even today, a lot of people, they want proof and proof and proof and proof, and in this, when we're dealing with other realms, I mean, I think you're one of the only people that I'm aware of that has documented proof. And you've got such a long history of these contacts, and it's so many that even out of all of your contacts, your percentage of proof has to be relatively small. You know what I mean? So, but
well, there is over 3,500 or nearly 4,000 videos and photos now. There has been witnesses to a lot of that stuff. Predominantly it's daytime footage as well. Yeah. It's been analysed by Jason Gleave, who's ex-UK Air Force and Aerospace. Jaime Mastan's group with Terza Millennia. Japanese television, they've got the originals, the metadata, they've checked it out. It hasn't been faked. On top of that, I've got physical trace evidence with anomalies in it. I've got all this different stuff. And you know what? For some people, enough proof isn't enough proof. Like, it just, even though I've got so much stuff, it doesn't matter. And this is even to other believers, and I don't care. People try to start arguments on social media with me. I delete and block. I haven't got time for this crap. I'm doing this and living this all the time. And that's the thing, is that when you go to court, whether you're doing a sworn testimony or you're swearing on the Bible or affirm or affirmation or whatever it is of what you're about to say is true, I've actually got more proof for the existence of my experiences than what there is of proof of what the actual Bible is based on. But yet you have to go and put your hand on it and swear on it. And I've got more proof that my experiences are real than there is for proof of the Bible. Right. And so, people say it's satellites, the space station. Do they really think I'm that stupid after 10 years of evidence with, at the start, and a lot of the time, if I do suspect it could have been the space station or a satellite, I will check the satellite tracker, I'll check plane trackers, all that stuff. I've done everything that the skeptics have asked, and it just doesn't matter. So I don't care about that, but it is something that's important to bring up, and I'm glad you did, because I've got to the point where I don't care anymore. People are going to say it's faked, CGI, it's this or that. There's always an out with this phenomena. It's always, it's a dust particle or it's an orb. It's a bug or it's a flying saucer. There's always this out, and I don't have time for that anymore. My evidence is out there and people can make of it what they may. But why am I continuously filming objects not just in Australia, but around the world, everywhere I go. Why is this a monthly thing where I'm able to document and show this evidence? You know, that's just something, some food for thought for those skeptics out there anyway.
Absolutely. And you know what, that comes right back to one of your original points earlier, where the information is only it will only reach as high as the consciousness of the person receiving it, right? So some people are just never gonna be ready for, but maybe not never. I don't want to put that out there. I really don't. But you know, what if they were to look at your evidence today, they might be a skeptic, but in a year or two after they've gone through some more inner work and their own evolution, whether they're aware that it's happening or not, you know what I mean? And then they could come back and see the exact same picture, read the exact same article, watch this exact same interview, and now all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like it's, I think it's a beautiful point.
And that's good. That means development, inner development.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't want people to believe me, but I think skeptics are good to a certain degree in terms of, like anything, you want to look at both sides of the argument, and then you come to a logical conclusion based on the evidence. What we've got a problem is just debunkers that have a preconceived notion that if it was real, they would know about it. And that's just not the case. You only rise to the occasion with what you allow consciously you to connect with. So as you develop consciously, like, I know that to some I sound like a well put together schizophrenic, and that's okay. But what I'm saying is that a majority of this isn't nuts and bolts. To talk about being ripped out of your human body computer in your conscious form, going on board crafts or to other realms or densities, and some of the stuff I'm saying, they're not ready yet for going beyond the third dimensional aspect of what they think contact is, whether it's a metallic flying saucer with the little green dude or grey or whatever, though those things do exist. That is not even like delving into where this stuff eventually leads, which is more wonderful and beautiful than what we can perceive until you experience it. And I believe we've all experienced it in between lives anyway.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree with that. So just to wrap up this particular topic, so do you have any suggestions or recommendations or guidance to any do you know the term star seeds, right? Like our star seeds.
Back.
Right.
With the wine and serious underneath it.
Yeah. So do you just have any, just a message to them or any guidance for starseeds now that are trying to live out their mission and maybe kind of navigating kind of the same stuff that you navigated maybe 10 years ago to get you to where you are today?
Take notice of your thoughts, your ideas, because there's communication happening. And I know that it seems hard at times. I was actually alone in an apartment for a lot of years dealing with this with no one around. And again, you know, it gets very depressive, but you've got to find your own tribe as well. And sometimes you've got to make that happen. You've got to get out of your comfort zone, and it's scary. You've got to make a change. You've got to do things differently to change the energies up. And what you'll find is you will attract people that you're meant to meet. And from there, things can really change exponentially quick and fast. But when you're in that moment of downness, you know, when you're down and out, I know that no matter what I say or you say, whatever people say can help that situation. But know that you're going through a rebirthing process, reconnecting to a higher aspect of you that's anchoring down and filtering through to the human consciousness. And you've got to try not to control it. When you go with the flow and be like water, there's going to be obstacles, but just like water, you'll go around them, above them, below them, and soon it will be just a memory of what once was holding you back. And that's the thing, is what's holding us back is ourselves. And people need to have belief in themselves. They need to have direction. They need to have goals. They need to, you know, have fitness of mind, body, and spirit, and discipline with that. And the thing is that everything's going to be okay. And when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, that's when everything goes to crap. So when you see this perpetual motion of this crap happening in your life, you've got to really analyze, is it really external? And sometimes it actually could be, whether it's the way people look at you or see you, because, you know, you may be not hanging around your tribe. But when you own what's yours and you work on that, and you come to a place of love and self-love and acceptance and service to others, you really start to see that shift and change. And it sounds all airy-fairy, and I can't even believe I'm saying this if I was looking at a 20-year-old version of myself, but this is the truth of the matter. And it's for people to find that out themselves, but they've just got to go with the flow.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter. So I want to switch gears a little bit over to Australia. So we have a large audience in the SBA world of Australians, and I mean, one of my dearest friends actually lives in Australia, and I met him at Eclipse of Disclosure 3 years ago, and we're still friends to this day. So I'd like to know a little bit about how you see disclosure in Australia, because you you're the founder of ESETI Down Under, correct?
Yeah, ESETIaustralia.org. Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry, it was Disclosure Down Under, the
I'm
the conference.
not running it per se. Everyone thinks I'm running it. I've got some really good friends, Mehdi and AJ, that are actually part of the team running that and doing all that stuff. I was sort of like somebody assisting getting the speakers. We're really good friends, and so we sort of threw the idea out there, talking to one another, and we're like, let's do it,
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. Is I want to bring more, not just international speakers, but homegrown people that are not known, and if they're willing to give them a platform to present their material and speak to the public and educate the public on disclosure. But I think it very much mimics America, what's going on here. Now, you've got to remember, Australia is pretty much the exact same size as America, but we've only got 24 million people.
Right.
And 90% of that's on the eastern seaboard. And so I'm seeing a change in the media's perspective, and especially with the Nimitz case that was revealed like a year or two ago. They're looking at, the Pentagon saying it's real. This is the weird thing, is that it comes down to the Five Eyes, which are Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, and Great Britain, or the UK, the United Kingdom. What's weird is that, a lot of those countries have produced UFO documents about this reality being real. And then America says they hadn't investigated since Project Blue Book, but were caught out with cases like the Rendlesham Forest case and other cases that came to light that it was shown, yes, they've investigated it.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're slowly starting to drip feed things again. But when I've been to Mexico or Italy or other parts of the world, and especially Japan as well with Mexico, there's disclosure already there. They're over it. They're just like, what is in the crafts? And some of them know, those that are having experiences, but they're like, we don't care about UFOs. We're up to the point now, we know it's real. Where do we go from there? Right. And we're seeing that in a lot of parts in Asia. We're seeing that in Africa and India, so much parts of the world, but we actually seem to be the ones that are behind. But it seems that if we have an authoritative figure, or mainly America, due to the attention on America, it's like if America says it, or there's like some really important figure that says this is real, then it will be taken serious.
Right.
And so I think part of the disclosure is coming from the skies, part of it's coming from us, and it's sort of going to be a conglomerate of different things to come into fruition, to where we're going to see events unfold that is going to cause this shift in consciousness and seeing reality for what it is. So that's sort of, in a nutshell, what I hope to do with Australia, that I've been doing for years, whether it's the Skywatchers or CE5 workshops or even presentations. I just like to educate people, and again, for them to do what they want on it. And that's just, the way it is.
Do you have a personal opinion or feelings about 2020, or have you received any information from any of your extraterrestrial contacts? But do you have kind of maybe a prediction or a forecast of what you think is going to come up in the new year for disclosure?
I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but anyone that says they know what's happening on a timeline is full of crap. It just, right. Look at everything. Look at everything that's happened. Even me, I have made dates, times, prophecies, predictions. They have worked out. And I said to the beings, I'm just like, I'm screwed if this crap doesn't work out. I stay away from it because it proved to me that they were telling me the truth. Now, I have seen that going up until April next year, there is a lot of events. Now, I wrote this post from the ERC, which is the Elohim Representative Council. It was a couple of days after October 9th when I had an experience, and the Edge of Wonder interviews are going into this as well. And I was taken by a being called Penke from Orion to this crystal light structured cathedral where the Elohim were, along with many other races, and there was 33 representatives there, along with the Lords of Light, the Sisterhood of Light, the Brotherhood of Light, and different non-corporeal type beings that are very highly advanced. And what was shown to me was that there would be certain types of shootings and public demonstrations and events of a negative nature, similar to shootings and shootings themselves. I saw that fires were coming. I saw that typhoons, cyclones, hurricanes, and especially earthquakes, along with political upheaval and possible civil war type scenarios, especially in America, could be unfolding, or we're going to start to get a glimpse of that. Now, those that think I'm full of crap, the funny thing is we've only got to the 1st of December here today in Australia because we're a day ahead. Mm-hmm. And half of that's already happened since I said it was going to happen. The fires have happened. Certain earthquakes have happened. Certain events that I've said have happened, and I'll be presenting this later with news snapshots of internet websites of mainstream news of the events and the post that I wrote, and you can sync the two up. It's happened after the fact, after I've said it. And that's not to show that I'm right, but what I'm saying is these events are unfolding. This has got to do with an upping in consciousness, and there's also solar events coming. And I believe that we are the closest we ever have been to these solar events unfolding. I don't know when. It could be next year. It could be the year after. I've got no idea. All I know is that for the first time in my heart, I actually feel that we're on the precipice of this. I was shown this information back in 2012, and it was elaborated on in this recent experience, meaning the coming times up to April next year. And so I was talking about these solar type events, and Shiji actually mentioned solar flash material in 2014 in that book that's written and has been out since then. And this is not a doom and gloom scenario. It is an ascension process for those that are ready to take it. And those that aren't, they're not going to die or anything, though there could be some upheaval and things happen from it. Some could, I don't know. But what I know is that this is ascension process for those that are ready to take it. And those that don't, they'll get it next time around. They're just not ready at the moment. And it's not that they're bad people. That is their individual journey. Right. And so there is a lot of things coming up for humanity, and the thing is that we need to come from a place of love and peace and acceptance and service to others, because from there we are holding space for the rest, because there's going to be a lot of upheaval, whether it's about religion or politics or that the governments of the world have lied to us. And this is where America have done a catch-22, is they've never said UFOs don't exist. They just said that they weren't a threat to national security. So there's sort of this, scenarios playing out by the day to where, hey, we never said they didn't exist, but we give it tongue in cheek and little green men talk. But we're definitely going through some trials and tribulations coming up. And I think what's happening is the more of us that work on ourselves individually, that will make it easier for the collective and us to rise as a collective to deal with these trials and tribulations and to progress towards a positive future for humanity in the earth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree. And thank you so much for sharing that with our audience, especially because, and it's been a theme in a lot of these interviews is, like Laura Eisenhower said yesterday, like it's happening, where it's already happening. It's here. It's happening now. It's going to happen in the future. It's not something to be afraid of. She recommends laughing it off,
like these new earth that people speak of, it's already been there and it's been there for years, and those that are ready to go there have gone there. This has been happening in such a way that even the beings told me, we don't even know how this is going to turn out, because nothing like this has ever been done. But what they do know is that those that are ready for these things, they're going to experience it, and those that aren't, they're not bad people. It's just they're going where they've got to go. So we've got to try to not take this so serious, right? Even though it's the most important subject, because people just get stuck in like, what am I going to do about my dog and my kids and this and that? It's like none of that matters. Not to say that those things don't matter, but in this process, when you shed going to, this physical body, like what's happening here is affecting other densities. And so beings are stuck where they are until certain beings move up, and it makes space for this chain reaction domino effect. And so when you go into your light body, or you're experiencing different densities, what once mattered here, they don't matter no more. You still have love and compassion for those souls and things like that, but you've got this individual journey as well. Right. And you see things from a source perspective, rather than a human 3D perspective of survival and what if mentality, to where that's the only time where you actually understand that the bigger picture, to where you'll be at peace with what's going on.
It's true. And once we finally understand our own sovereignty, then we'll be able to understand the sovereignty of every other being on the planet. Our dogs, our kids, our friends, our family and loved ones, they are just as empowered and sovereign as we are. And so, like you said, we're still in that 3D survival which has been engineered, you know what I mean, to make us feel that way all the time. Like that we are still looking at it from that perspective. So I think that's a really, really important and kind shift in perspective that you've offered the audience today.
Definitely, like, this is up to us. People go, why can't they come here and save us and heal us and this and that? It comes down to, we can't be codependent on them and they can't be codependent on us. We've got to see them as the greater family of man and meet them halfway. And we have to do this ourselves. Because I tell you what, there are other races out there that are manipulative and could be playing us. And at the same time, I know that we've got abilities in the human 3D body computer that can actually connect to all realms and dimensions, and that not every single being can do that. But like, we can in our pure essence, but in the human aspect, we've got a conglomerate of so many different beings. I've been shown we're like a super being in the 3D realm. And the capabilities that we have, as above, so below, and what happens below affects above. And I know that even light beings are gleaning and doing hybridization through the light structure of our body, gleaning it with theirs, because we've got abilities and traits that even these advanced angelic type beings don't have as well, which blew me away. So it shows how big and beautiful things are, that we don't die, that life goes on and on and on. And it's up to us to what we create with our reality. And that's the bigger picture here, is that we are what we think, and that's where we've got to look at things.
That's so wonderful, Peter. And I have a feeling that our audience is going to want to know all the different ways that they can find you after this interview. And look, you know, I'm sure everybody's going to want to look up your books. I know I'm going to buy them as soon as we get off the phone here. And yeah, so I want to give you just a quick second to let's go over the websites again. So petermaxwellslattery.com.
Yep, and ecityaustralia.org, and also disclosuredownunder.com, which is where we've got this event coming up in January, which people around the world can live stream to as well. So if they can't make it, they can get a ticket online and watch it with their friends and family, and they're basically joining in with us in real time.
Yes, and our audience is very familiar with live streams because we do live streams at our Dimensions of Disclosure conferences. So I think that's super exciting that you guys have that capability. And I wish the best for you for the conferences. It's a 2-day, it's a 2-day, 2-city conference, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a workshop in Sydney as well. So 2 days in Melbourne. I think it's the 11th and 12th. Don't quote me. It's that way, and then a weekend after, it's in Sydney. 2 days, 2 days as well. So Saturday and Sunday at each place. And again, there's John Vivanco, Barry Littleton, James Gilliland, myself, the Edge of Wonder Boys, and Jordan Sather that will be speaking, and basically together covering a little bit of every topic. I think when you put all of us together, a little bit of everything is covered.
Absolutely. That is fantastic. And what are the names of your books, Peter?
The Book of Shiji and the Book of Shiji 2 and 3, and there's also Connect to Your Spirit ET guides. There is another 6 books that I've pulled down because I'm doing second edition. So I'm hoping to get them redone and out next year with updates. And that's Operation Starseed, My Awakening Part 1 and 2, Breaking Free, and there's a couple of other ones there as well. So don't go to Amazon and get the ones that are $800 because they're not endorsed by me. I've contacted Amazon. People are putting my books up for ridiculous prices. They should be maybe $5, $6, $7 for the ebooks and maybe $20-something for the paperback. So if you have trouble, go to my website, petermaxwellslattery.com, to the book section, and you'll get them at the cheapest prices through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iBookstore, and Lulu. And you can pick the store of your choice, and you'll get them at the proper prices. So just be wary of those people out there selling these types of things for ridiculous prices. I think part of it's to discredit us. So, yeah.
So even though the information is priceless, don't pay that price.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, definitely just keep an eye. And it's not just happening with me. I found many other people in this community have the same problem as well, that's going on. And Amazon said people have got the right to put what they want up and sell it for whatever price they want. And, all right, that's the way it is. It's just frustrating. Sometimes that's the first book they'll see and they go, this guy's got to be full of crap because his book's $800, but yet I haven't endorsed it and I'm not selling it personally. So it is what it is.
Right. We'll be sure to put the link for the book section on your website in the post then too, for sure.
Right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any final words for our audience?
No, just be in a place of love and self-forgiving and forgiving of others and being service when you can be. And You're not alone, everyone. We're all in this together, and we're starting to see this unfold by the day. So, yeah, thank you for everyone watching this and for you doing this as well. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, my mind's blown. I'm sure our audience's mind is blown. So I'm really excited to get to work with you some more in the future as well, for sure.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Our Cosmic Secret Facebook Live series has really been amazing. I think we've all really gotten to see a lot of really incredible information and bodies of work. And we will have on Monday, we will have David Lone Bear Sonopass, and then on Tuesday should be John D'Souza, the X-Man. So definitely stay tuned for that, guys. And thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you again soon. Bye.